It's one of the most beautiful things to watch from my perspective when you have members grow together, not just professionally, but personally. And, we talk about association. So, who you associate with has a powerful impact on your business, your career. So, you hang around with a bunch of people that are forward thinking and want to get stuff done and stuff like that, right? You'll compress time in terms of your success. And you'll just be around the right people, man. You support each other. So, that's really good.
Hi, it's Coach Joe Lucas, and welcome to the Magellan Network Show. My goal inside of this communication, this show, is to share with you my nearly 30 years of coaching some of the most successful financial advisors in North America. We're going to be talking about strategies, syntaxes. We're going to be bringing guests on from time to time, and I'm going to share with you what's working now. So think of this show as sort of like a little one-on-one kind of mini coaching cast, if you like, where we're going to be going in depth from time to time on strategies to help you grow your business, get more effective, become more efficient, find balance in your time management, grow your business, and quite frankly, whatever else is going on in the world today. So before we get to today's episode, I'd love for you to do a couple things for me. Number one, make sure that if you're watching this on YouTube, that you subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you're doing the audio, make sure that you give us a review on whether Spotify or Apple. We'd really appreciate that. And quite frankly, that does help. It does matter when you rate things and like things and subscribe to things. It helps us get the word out to more of the industry. And lastly, I have a very special gift for you. Go to MagellanNetwork.net, so one word, MagellanNetwork.net, and I have for you a complimentary membership, 100% gratis, where you can tap into about between 50 and 75 hours of masterclasses, forms, tools, templates, and strategies. So please go ahead and make sure you go ahead and get that claimed, smash the like button and subscribe. And please go ahead and leave us a review on whatever podcasting platform you're on. And now, let's get to this week's episode.
Hi, it's your coach, Joe Lucas, and welcome to this episode of the Magellan Network Show. Welcome. Obviously, for those of you who watch me on my YouTube channel, you can see that we're not in Florida anymore. Welcome to Deer Valley, Utah. The reason why I'm out here for the next actually 2 weeks is I have 3 live mastermind groups, and so we meet twice a year live. So our fall meeting is actually going to be in Deer Valley, Utah this year, and that's really going to be, this episode is going to be about why every one of you, if you're a financial advisor, needs to be a part of a mastermind group. Now, it's going to sound a little self-serving for a moment, because I run them obviously, but I also help my clients create their own locally. So there's basically 2 types of mastermind groups we're going to get into. One of them will be kind of a peer group, right? So advisors, masterminding with advisors, and we'll talk about that model. And then the second one is the advisor, i.e. you, creating a local mastermind group, and why it's different than like a BNI or a pro advisor or any other organization, and I help my clients do that too. But let me tell you my backstory a little bit of why masterminds have been such a big part of my life. When I started my coaching career back in the early 90s, and even before that, when we were with Tony Robbins, we had a model we called Power Teams. It was a Tony Robbins Power Team, or Anthony Robbins and Associate Power Team. And it was a mastermind group. And so what we did, we took graduates from our different programs, and we put them together once a month. Again, this was locally in New Jersey. And we would do that. And this is before actually, Zoom or even Skype. We would do teleconferences. So it really worked well. I met a gentleman. So when I was starting my coaching career, I was doing a lot I was Mr. Networker, right? I'd go to every Chamber of Commerce event in like 3 or 4 counties in New Jersey. And I think it was Somerset County. I ran across a gentleman named Bill Foster. Now, in the early 90s, at the time, Bill was probably in his early 60s, and I was in my early 30s. And we hit it off. He became an executive coach. He came out of a corporate. He was a director and senior vice president, like at Citigroup. reported right into the C-suite. And Bill was doing a lot of coaching with bankers and financial executives, right? So more on the back office inside stuff. And I was doing coaching on the advisor side, right? So we kind of had this commonality. And I never forget, he went to me, he goes, hey, I've got this mastermind group. One of our guys moved away. I'd like to invite you to check it out. So I was like, sure, right? So I go. So I'm the fifth, so there's five, right? I'm going to give you guys different models in a little bit, but I was like the fifth guy, right? So I had Bill, he was 61, 62 at the time. There were three other gentlemen. One of them was a very successful entrepreneur. Another one, the sports psychologist for the New York Rangers and New York Knicks. And another gentleman was like very successful architects. And it was Bill and myself. And all these gentlemen were in their probably mid-50s to early 60s. So I show up, I'm now 31 years old, probably just about. And I had 2 years with that group before I say it was lovingly. Marissa, my wife, made me move to Florida. People ask me, what do I miss most about New Jersey? The food and that group. That's it, right? And I've never been able to replicate that group in the state of Florida. But for those 2 years I spent there, I got decades of wisdom and knowledge and everything. And I call that that's where I got my master's, my MBA in business, not from going to a college, but by being mentored by these four gentlemen. So if you're in the right mastermind group, you're going to really make a lot of progress quickly. So let me now give you the two different types of mastermind groups I think you all need to take a look at. So I'm going to start with the one that you're going to build, right? The local group. And so what I'd have you do is pick two other people. I know some of you sit there and say, well, I should go pick a CPA and an attorney. You could do that, but here's what really matters. The psychology of the person. Are they into personal development? Are they into what we'll call success principles, right? Do they get what a mastermind really is, right? It's not a leads program. It's not a lead exchange. It's not a networking group. I mean, you come every month together and you bear your whatever version of your soul you want to bear, right? So from a business issue to a personal issue. So I would start with two and yourself, so that's total of three. And I think you can get a group to maybe 6 or 7, 8. You start getting a little bit bigger than that. You then need to start figuring out, do I need to bring a facilitator in? You kind of lose some of the intimacy sometimes. So I would always say start with 3, 5, 6, 7 is a good number, right? And then you could all take turns rotating it. Some of my clients do a breakfast meeting. Some will do a lunch meeting. Some will do a dinner meeting once a month. So the goal is once a month, you meet for like 2.5 hours. And then ideally throughout the month, you're doing kind of one-on-one check-ins with your members, right? So you're all connecting with each other, getting to know each other better. Now, I will tell you, as a byproduct of building a local group, you will get a lot of referrals, but that's never the intent of the group, okay? So you don't go there and say to yourself, okay, I've got 2 people. One of them is a kind of an okay person, but they're really well connected. Or this is a great human being, gets it, not as well connected. Always take the second one. They're going to add a lot more value. Remember, mastermind groups are about members. It's not a training class. It's not a networking group. So you'd meet once a month, like I said, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and all you have to do is send me a note. Hey, how do you run these meetings? It's not that complicated. Everybody gets a little floor time to put what they want on the table. The way I run mine is the live ones, and I'll explain that a little bit. Depending on the size of the group, these groups can be more intimate. We max the groups out at 12. I think of the 3 groups that are going to be here, I think our largest will be 10, and then we'll have some people remote in. So everybody will get maybe 45 minutes of floor time with an agenda, with a topic they want to present, or a question or a concept, right? And they present it, and we go around the room and we offer feedback, guidance, clarifying questions, whatever we do, right? It's very organic. And what's really nice about once you establish a group locally is you get to grow together. And that's really you celebrate your milestones, the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat, I guess, because we're here outside of Park City where the Olympics were held, Winter Olympics. So that's the first thing I want you to do is, if not for 2024, put in your 2025 business plan. I'm going to build a local group, right? Now, could you build it virtually? Yes. You don't have to do it locally. But I think from an advisor perspective, and you're dealing with the local, your local marketplace, I really think local is going to be better. Live local would be my preference for you to do that, okay? So that's the first one I want you to build. And make a goal. Again, if you know for 2024, make it a 2025 goal. The second group is a peer mastermind, right? So in the insurance world, they're called study groups, right? But very basic principles are the same thing, right? Advisors, and this is going to sound very interesting, advisors are a lot of times a little close. They think they got some secret sauce, right? And it's really close to the vest. So I think a lot of the industry is like that. So again, if you're going to build your own group, and I've got 3 virtual and 3 live. So I've got 6 groups I've run. And the founding group, which is our elite group, they've been around, the core members have been around for, I think, 13 years now. And so I'm going to give you the framework around that. You can copy it. So again, same thing like we started out with our kind of civilian program, right? I would have you pick maybe 2 or 3 peer advisors. And again, you're looking for people. So here's the thing about a mastermind group. I want you to think about it like faucet sponge. You want people that can teach, that can add value, right? And will absorb information. So faucet, sponge. You want a combination of both. You do not want sponges because they'll take and they never give, and the givers don't get anything back, and eventually they'll leave. So it's really important that you surround yourself, and you don't pick. Now, again, I think there's some in the civilian one. I think you can kind of freeform that, or in the advisor model. Again, depending on where you are in your career. So if I put somebody that's got 5 years experience, and let's say they've got a $300,000 a year practice, and then I put them in the same room with an advisor that's got 15 years experience and a $3 million practice, right? Well, the $300,000 person is going to get a lot of value, man, but the $3 million person is not going to get much at all, right? Because again, it's differentials. So I believe that, like when I build groups, we have elite, right, which is our core group, and they're all kind of in that same kind of economic range, if you will. Then we have 5-6 years ago, I created Empire, and that was a $3 million baseline delta. I think up to now $10 million top line rev. While we're out here in Utah, I invited one of my newer personal clients. He runs a $40 million practice. So that would kind of give us like a 10x spread almost in that group, but kind of similar thing. So in that group, it's interesting. Like in the elite group, we'll talk about business development and referrals and people and practice management and stuff like that. Very kind of, I call core functional, issues, right? Social media, marketing, branding, business development, things like that.
Hi, Coach Joe Lukacs here, and I'm just breaking here for a moment just to do a couple quick reminders. Number one, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel or our podcast. In addition, please leave a comment or a review. Those things really, really matter. And share this episode with 3 of your colleagues inside the financial services space. And lastly, make sure that you go ahead and claim your free membership inside of Magellan Network. Now back to this week's episode.
In my Empire group, right, the 3, which actually now I started at 3 million, they're probably closer now to 4.5 to 5 million to 40 million. We don't talk about that. We talk about equity. We take PE money. We talk about buying practices. We talk about talent retention. When do we allow rock stars to buy into the practice, right? I mean, just because they're in the advisor world, but they're like business owners, it's a very different conversation, very different room. Okay, so I got those 2. And then this year, in fact, we're meeting for the very, very first time is Empire X. So this is like what I realized last year. I had a gap, right? So I've got kind of elite and I've got Empire and I got nothing in between. It's a big jump between the 2. So I started a 3rd group this year, my last live group. I'm pretty sure about that. So Empire X. So I would phrase it this way. They are going to be in the Empire group in the next 3 to 5 years. They'll be eligible for Empire 3 to 5 years based on their growth, right? But here's why it's really important. So if you're going to build your own, you want to build it with your level and up. Okay, so your success level and up. Do not build down because you'll teach a lot and that's great. And that's your intent. That's cool. If you want to mentor, fine. But you want to be you up. The old saying, you want to be the poorest person in the room. In other words, like you want to make sure that you're not the biggest dude in the room. You just don't, right? So it's a bit of a challenge for me sometimes, right? Because I have to interview, I have to figure out who plays. And just because somebody's really successful does not mean they'll play well with others in the room. I've had that experience where I brought in some really successful people and it's backfired on me. So trust me from my own experience, my own learning experience. You want to have everybody. So the trick in building a group is you want to have enough commonality, get along, but enough difference where it's interesting, right? You do not want carbon copies of each other, right? That does not work. So I'll give you my live model real quick. So my live model, we meet twice a year. I think we're doing one in Florida in the winter, nice place to be. And then early fall, so we tend to go East Coast, we come out West, right? So this year's Park City, maybe it'll be Park City for the next several years, we'll see. So we do a two-day event. That's first quarter in Florida and then third quarter in West, right? So this year, Utah. Second quarter, I'll do a half-day virtual, and fourth quarter, I'll do a half-day virtual, right? So kind of instead of a 2-day with dinners and lunches and a lot of socializing and receptions and stuff like that, the virtual ones will be like 11 to 6 Eastern, and everybody get about 30 minutes of floor time, right? And we take breaks, obviously. Nobody wants to be on Zoom for 6 hours, trust me, right? So we do take some breaks on that. But it's just one of the richest, like with my elite group, which has been around like for 12, 13 years. I mean, they're friends. One of the members got married last week or a couple weeks ago, depending on you're watching this, September 2024, I guess. And a lot of the members were there because we become friends. They vacation together. They have each other's back. It's one of the most beautiful things to watch from my perspective when you have members grow together, not just professionally, but personally. And, we talk about association. So who you associate with has a powerful impact on your business, your career. So you hang around with a bunch of people that are forward thinking and want to get stuff done and stuff like that, right? You'll compress time in terms of your success. And you'll just be around the right people, man. You support each other. So that's really good. So the live group, back to live group. So we do that. Then each month we're not meeting. So that's 2 live, 2 virtual. So the other 8 months we do like a 90-minute check-in. Like I don't run it, my team runs it. Where it's just kind of like a check-in, like a meetup. Let's call them meetups. We do that. And that works really well. So if you're going to do a live group, you want to think about a combination of things, right? You want to have some FaceTime a couple times a year. And here's something about local advisors. I would just share this with you guys. Sometimes it's hard to get local advisors in a group like this because they think they're like, well, you're my competitor, right? You're my colleague and my competitor. We're in the same marketplace. So I tend to like to have this, we have members from like all states, right? Sometimes they kind of fall into the same city, but that's very rare, quite frankly. And so there's a little bit more freedom to share. And I don't do firm-centric. In like Elite, for example, we have wirehouse advisors, insurance advisors, independent broker-dealer advisors, RA advisors, right? My Empire group is all RA independent BD, right? Because they're business owners. And then Empire X, that new group, it's in IBD and RA, right? So again, no wires, again, business owner scenario from that perspective. So I think a combination of doing live and then virtual is really a good mix, right? But if you're going to do local, then I would just keep it live every month, like I talked about like building the other group, kind of with others. I would just run that same model with advisors if you're going to do it locally, okay? So that's one model. Like I said, I've got 3 groups, 12 to 14 in those groups. The other group I run is the virtual groups. We'll call them Zoom-centric masterminds. They meet every month. We meet for 2 hours, and because it's 2 hours, those groups tend to be 8. I think 8's a good number. Everybody gets in a floor time. 1 or 2 members are always missing, travel, vacation, conflicts, whatever. So that's good too. The difference there is that it's hard to build you get a lot of value in those virtual groups, and they're easy, right? Because nobody's traveling, not a large commitment. But sometimes you just don't get the level of connectivity and connection because you're not breaking bread together. So that's the one thing I would say is different about doing virtual groups. Like I said, I run 3 groups. I run 2 advisor groups and 1 for new advisors. So like second chair, team advisors, our mentoring group there. So 3 and 3 total 6. And it's one of the things I enjoy most. You can imagine putting on 3 2-day events in 14 days in a beautiful resort. I think we're at Stein Eriksen here in Deer Valley. It's expensive. It takes logistics. People have to get on airplanes. You have to travel. You have to pay to be here, right? And so it's a real commitment. So for the live groups, you really need to make sure if you're going to jump into a live group that you understand kind of what you're getting yourself into from a commitment standpoint, And Mastermind, just from an investment standpoint, like if you build your own asset, you're going to do your own thing. Like I've been a part of some groups. I did one. My wife and I, Marissa, did one. It was a 1-year program. It was 2 live meetings, 2 3-day meetings, and then monthly stuff in between. And it was $25,000 a chair. I did a 3-day mastermind with Jay Abraham out in California several years ago. I think Marissa and I, was like for a 3-day event, it was like $35,000 for both of us to be there, right? That's not including travel, by the way, and your hotel and everything else. So you can see that, and there are mastermind groups that cost $100,000 to get in. There's Genius Network, which I'm kicking the tires on right now. It's either $25K buy-in or the $100K buy-in, depending on what group you want to be in. Obviously, I'd rather be in the $100K group, but that's a big commitment, right? So sometimes some people ask, why would somebody spend, well, it's an investment, right? A lot of times, the level of the group is determined by the buy-in. Because you can imagine, nobody's going to fork over $100K and not be a serious player, right? Hope it works, or we'll check this out, see what happens. Like, you got to be serious players. That's the other reason why having a paid group versus a kind of a do-it-yourself group, that's one of the key advantages of a paid group or investment-oriented group. There's time and money and energy. 3 things, right? Your time to attend live virtual, your money, capital, right, to invest in a group, and then your energy to get places, right? Like we've got people coming from 4 corners of North America, Canada included, to participate in these events over the next several days. For my group, it's not about the money, it's about the time. But I'll tell you, I'll never stop doing them, because I know the impact it had on my career. And like I said, I've never been able to replicate that since. So as we wrap this up, some important ideas. Number 1, build a group of 5 to 8 non-advisors. You be the only advisor in there, and build it locally, meet once a month, right? One of our members, Frank Rikas, he's down in South Florida. He's really kind of taken this thing, blown it up. I want to say his group's like 18 to 24, I forget, but it's a larger group and it's really expanding, and it's something that he and I talked about several years ago, and he's actually implemented it. So you want to build that, okay? And then the second group you want to build or join is an advisor group. So if you're going to build it, right, again, you up, right? Like I want you to be the lowest producer in the tribe, right? And then peer up. Meet once a month. Do it live if you can, right? And if you got colleagues around the United States and you want to kind of do it on Zoom, that's fine too, right? But you meet every month. If you want to check out what we're doing inside Magellan Network, just go to Magellan Mastermind. Just Google Magellan Mastermind, and you'll see our page there, and there'll be an application, and we'll have a conversation and things like that. But do these 2 groups. Like, make this a commitment for yourself in 2025. I'm going to level up what I'm doing. I'm going to expose myself to new people. I'm going to get uncomfortable, because groups, if you're in the right group, you're uncomfortable. If you're too comfortable, I question whether you're getting what you need out of the group, right? Because while you want comfort in terms of feeling safe to discuss everything, you want to make sure, and that's why, in our groups, my 6 groups, people come and go, right? So, seat opens up, we fill it, we put new players in. Here in Utah, in our Empire group, we have 2 non-members coming as guests to check out what we're doing. So that's going to change the dynamic of the room. You always want to be doing that. It's super important, right? So if your group gets a little too comfortable, or it just becomes boring, shake it up. It's really, really important, okay? So that's my advice, my challenge for you for 2025. 2 groups, a peer group and then a non-peer group, and you run them. Remember, leadership has its privileges. So take advantage of that, okay? And again, thank you for watching or listening to this episode of Magellan Network Show. Check us out, MagellanNetwork.net. And I will see us. Still be actually next week. I'll be in Utah. And so I'll see you guys again next week from Deer Valley here. And have a great week.
Thank you for watching or listening to this episode of the Magellan Network Show. Hey, if any of this resonated with you, I invite you to come to MagellanNetwork.net, and we have a powerful group coaching community of like-minded advisors. Come in for a trial. You and I will have a one-on-one conversation. Let's see if I can help elevate your game, both personally and professionally.